Right, so last week I told you about an OpenAI that broke out of its own test box and hacked into another company's servers to cheat on a benchmark. And if you've sat there listening and thought, well, that's an OpenAI problem, I'm glad it's not mine. Now, I've got some news for you this week, and you're not going to love it. It wasn't a one company problem, it was a preview. Here's what's happened in the last 7 days since. The original stories got worse. A second major AI lab went looking for the same problem on its own backyard, and credit where it's due, it found one, or more than one. And a third company had a completely different, but just as awkward failure in its own. And at the same time, some genuinely really good fixes started shipping in tools that you might already be using. So today we're going to do this properly. We're going to talk about what got worse, what's actually getting better week on week on week. This week's other platform news, and a proper low-risk way to try an AI agent for yourself in your own business without betting the farm on it. So my name's Alan Bark, and welcome to the AI Weekly Brief. If you haven't subscribed, please do. We're getting some great feedback on the podcast, and I'm really enjoying doing it. So the more people that watch means we can keep doing it. So let's start with the sandbox story, which has definitely just got bigger. Two things happened since we last spoke that changed the shape of this story quite a bit. So first of all, OpenAI incident turned out to actually be worse than we first thought. Axios revealed that on the 28th and the 29th of July, that the rogue agent didn't just hit Hugging Face, it also broke into a second company, a cloud infrastructure provider called Modal Labs, during the same internet spree. And the way it got there was almost embarrassingly simple. A Modal customer had left an endpoint on an open internet with no authentication on it at all. And the agent found it and used it exactly the way an opportunistic scammer scanning the internet would. But here's the bit that really matters. The agent kept pursuing its original goal. There was no malice here at all. It was all about stealing the benchmark, the answer key. Even after it had already escaped the sandbox, it didn't wander off. It didn't lose the plot once it got loose. It stayed absolutely on task. 4 accounts, 4 separate services, all pulled into one continuous chain over several days before anyone caught it. Second, and for me, this is the bigger deal. Anthropic came out on the 30th of July and published their own internal review, prompted specifically by OpenAI's disclosure. And I want to give them real credit where credit's due here, because, you know, they went looking rather than assuming it couldn't happen to them. And that takes a bit of backbone, let's be honest. And then across just over 141,000 evaluation runs, they actually found 3 separate cases where one of their own models had reached the open internet from a test environment and got into real production systems belonging to real organizations. The earliest of these 3 dated back to April this year, months before anyone was talking about this publicly, months before OpenAI's own incident even happened. So this hasn't been sitting there waiting for a competitor's bad headline to expose it. It had already quietly happened more than once and simply hadn't surfaced yet. Then Microsoft wasn't spared either. Researchers at a security firm called Manifold looked at Microsoft agent tooling that same week and found their own gap, a different flavor of the same problem. Less AI broke out of its box, more AI did exactly what a hidden instruction buried in a document told it to do, because nothing was checked whether that instruction should have been trusted in the first place. And honestly, that one worries me more, not less because it doesn't need a bug at all. It just needs AI doing its job properly on a task it was never meant to be given. One outlet summed up the whole week, I think really rather well. OpenAI broke out, Anthropic broke in, and Microsoft obeyed. 3 companies, 3 different flavors of exactly the same underlying problem. Now, let's talk about what's been good. and what good actually looks like, because some of it shipped this week. And here's the more useful half of our story today. Though, while all of that was surfacing, some genuinely solid fixes shipped in real products this week. And I think they're a good template for what we should be looking for. Anthropic's Claude Code, the coding assistant, not the chat app, got an update this week that specifically improves what's called sandbox credential masking. In plain English, if an agent's working inside a contained environment, the actual secrets and keys it might touch to get the task done get hidden from it by default, rather than the whole thing relying on AI simply behaving itself. Small and glamorous fix, exactly the kind of thing that would have mattered in the stories that we've just been talking about. Perplexity's personal computer, the always-on agent we mentioned a couple of weeks back, that's been rebuilt from the ground up with 3 really cool guardrails. Every sensitive action now needs your explicit approval before it happens. There's a complete and full audit trail of everything it's done, and there's a kill switch that actually works. Not in theory, it's built in. And that right there is the checklist worth stealing for your own business. Approval before sensitive actions, an audit trail that you can actually read, and a kill switch that works. There's a couple of lessons there. So, if you think about it, it's a bit like anything in life, isn't it? It's first seek to understand what a thing actually does and what it can get wrong before you hand it the keys to the bank account. So the rest of this week's platform news, let's quickly go through the rest because there's a fair bit. OpenAI teased its next major model on the 1st of August. It's called Astra. And here's the interesting bit. It wasn't announced with a launch or a flashy demo. It was announced with 10 previously unsolved problems in mathematics and theoretical computer science that it had apparently cracked, which is really, really impressive stuff. But the big red flag here is Astra isn't released yet. No date, no pricing, no model card. Nothing you can actually get your hands on yet. So file that one under impressive, but not actionable yet. More practically, OpenAI's browser agent Atlas is being retired on the 9th of August. It's been folded into the agentic tools, now built directly into ChatGPT and Codex. If your team use Atlas, that date's worth keeping in your diary. And separately, the standalone DAL-E image generator inside ChatGPT is also being switched off on the 30th of August. So if you've got images sitting in old chats and you want to keep them, go and download them while you can. Google, meanwhile, pushed Gemini 3.6 Flash and Gemini 3.5 Flash Lite out of preview and into full stable release this week. Better token efficiency, better agentic planning, and Google now clearly building its model lineup by job, not by hype. The Big Pro model is for the heavy reasoning work. Flash is for your everyday coding and tasks, and Flashlight for the cheap, high-volume, repetitive stuff. That's worth knowing because, if you're picking a Gemini tier for a specific job, rather than just grabbing the flagship one out of habit, Flashlight in particular is built for exactly the kind of stuff, this low-stakes stuff, the repetitive tasks that we've just spent the last 10 minutes talking about. So it's a sensible place to start when you're looking at trusting an agent. So there's also a UK angle, a free way in and a date worth knowing. 2 things landed this week that matter directly if you're running a business here in the UK. First, the good one. From the 1st of August, Microsoft launched something called Copilot in 30, a partner-led 25-user, 30-day trial of Microsoft 365 Copilot, aimed squarely at organizations under 300 employees, open to anyone already on Business Basics, Business Standard, or Business Premium. It's genuinely low risk. Start with a small group, focus on a handful of real everyday tasks, and decide afterwards whether it's worth rolling out wider. Microsoft's own guidance here is sensible too. Put some basic ground rules in place before you start, and don't switch it on for the whole office in one go. if you've been curious about Copilot, but didn't fancy committing to licenses blind, this takes that excuse away for a month. Second, one to be aware of, not to panic about, but on the 2nd of August marked a big compliance milestone under the EU AI Act, where the bulk of the obligations for high-risk AI systems came into force. Now, that's an EU law, not a UK law, so it doesn't automatically catch you. But if you sell into the EU, use AI tools built by an EU-based vendor, or handle EU's customer data through an AI system, it's worth maybe just 5 minutes of your time this week checking whether anything you use falls into that scope. And sitting behind both of those, the gap I flagged last week still hasn't closed. Recent figures put the UK SME AI adoption at about 70%, which is pretty cool. But only 31% of those businesses say they've actually seen a positive return on it. The single biggest reason, by a country mile, is a skills gap, not a tools being bad, just no one quite knowing how to point them at the right problem yet. Put those figures next to everything we've talked about today, and you start to see a problem, don't you? It's businesses are adopting these tools faster than anyone, including, quite frankly, the AI companies themselves. It's working out how to use them safely, and it's working out how to use them well. That's not a reason to stop. It's a reason to be deliberate about where you start. Right, my favorite bit. Let's go on to the art of the possible. 3 things you can actually do this week. Not homework, stuff you can work on right now. Number 1, if your business is fewer than 300 people and you're a Microsoft 365 Business Basic, Standard or Premium client, look into the Copilot in 30 trial through your Microsoft partner. 25 users, 30 days, nothing to buy. Set a few ground rules with your team before you start, then actually measure what changes. Number 2, from here on, when you're looking at any AI agent tool, ask it 3 straight questions. Does it need my approval before doing anything sensitive? Can I see an audit trail of what it's done? And is there a genuine kill switch? If the answer to any of them is woolly, I guess that's your answer, right? Number 3, if any part of your business touches EU customers or EU-based AI vendors, give 5 minutes this week to checking whether the EU AI Act's high-risk rules, which landed on the 2nd of August, apply to you. Cheaper to check now than to find out from a customer compliance team down the line. And if you're not sure, that uncertainty is worth resolving, not just sitting on that. So that's this week's brief. Look, if any of this, which agent tools are right for you, which are actually ready, or just a sense check before you trial one, feels like something you'd like to talk about, just reach out. Don't figure it out yourself. We do a free 30-minute call, no pitch, just a proper conversation. And the details, of course, as always, are in the show notes. Listen, if you haven't subscribed, really appreciate it if you can hit that subscribe button now. And I will see you next Tuesday. Take care of yourselves. Have a wonderful week. See you soon.